I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to the public comment portion. Do we have anybody sign in, Jake? Okay. Carol, are you here about some business that's on the agenda already? Okay, we'll call you forward at that particular time, okay? Thank you. Okay, moving forward for consideration of the September 6, 2016 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Were there any changes, edits, corrections needed? None said. That will be on the consent agenda. Thank you. And for the September 6, 2016 Village Board meeting minutes, were there any changes, edits, corrections?
I have one on page 4 of 7.
What would that be?
I'm looking for it. In the administrator's report, no, actually, it's for the number 2. Trustee Kraus clarified that the gravel would be more beneficial in case of a fuel spill. I wasn't really referring to the fuel spill. I was talking more about just runoff from the site down the hill, because that seemed to be what those residents were more concerned of. I'm not really sure if blacktop would be better for a fuel spill or gravel, but I was talking about the water running down the hill. So I'd like the fuel spill taken out and would be more beneficial in terms of runoff.
Okay. Instead of fuel spill, you want runoff?
That'd be fine.
Okay, so instead, we'll strike a fuel spill and put runoff.
That same section is a little problematic in the fact that the structure of the motions was incorrect. I mean, it doesn't, and I don't know how to exactly explain it, but one, the mayor can't motion, and it says the mayor motioned.
Well, let's just correct that.
Yeah. And number 2, it doesn't say what the outcome was of the amendment.
I'm fine with any kind of change on that, I understand. We do have a new person writing here, and I might not have caught
Okay,
that, so
okay, all right.
I'm glad to make those modifications. I understand your point.
That'd be great.
Any other changes? So we'll move that forward with as amended on the consent agenda.
Well, I would suggest on September 6th minutes, we'll just bring it back to the
Next meeting.
October 4th meeting amended with what was just said. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
That's fine.
Sure.
Thank you. Now, a discussion regarding Westlake subdivision, the conceptual single-family re-subdivision by William Ryan Homes. Hey, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, this is a continuation of a discussion that we had 2 weeks ago at the Committee of the Whole. William Ryan Homes is interested in developing the southern half of the Westlake subdivision, converting the development from single-family attached townhome units to single-family detached units. As shown on the slide, just a brief summary is existing development's about 30% built out. The proposal would just occupy the southern half of the subdivision for single-family homes. The northern half of the subdivision would remain for townhome development. Since the previous discussion, William Ryan has revised their proposal slightly based off items that were discussed at the Committee of the Whole on September 6th. Basically modifications, they've dropped 2 lots from the proposal. 61 lot subdivision was previously proposed with a minimum lot size of 6,900 and change square feet. Newest proposal would increase the minimum lot size to about 7,500 square feet, but the average lot size for the subdivision would be around 9,600 square feet. So there's a few lots that are at the minimum lot size, but there are other lots that would be vastly larger than those smaller lots. Also, the minimum lot width proposal would increase from 55 feet to 57 feet. Not every lot within the subdivision will be 57 feet in width. There will be variable lot widths throughout the subdivision. This slide here shows the previous proposal. Basically, the two larger pockets of lots on either side of Amber Drive are where the lots were removed from the proposal. That basically modified the number of and size of lots in those areas. This slide shows the current configuration, which the lots along the west side of Amber Drive will increase in width and size, and then along Westlake Court on the right-hand side of the subdivision, this slide, lots were reconfigured to front off of Westlake Court, and then also increase the size of the corner lot west at Amber Drive and Westlake Drive at the southeast corner of the subdivision. This slide just is for reference to show throughout the subdivision where variable lot widths are located at. Looking at the range of 55 to 60 feet, there's basically 3 clusters of properties that would be within that range. 60 to 65 foot lot list would be more along the northwest corner of the site, Wellington Lane, and then some of the cul-de-sac off of Westlake Court. And then you'll have larger lots along the west side of both Amber Drive and Westlake Drive, and then towards the intersection of Westbury Drive and Amber Drive as well. Due to the turbulent in your streets here, these setbacks or widths are basically at the setback line. So what the actual frontage is on the roadway might be narrower than that, but that would be what the buildable area would be from a lot width standpoint. Again, just reference the comprehensive plan does provide guidance as far as the type of development on the subject site. This is just reference to the 2 pages that have existing language towards the development, encouraging different options for the site, which may include the type of proposal of a smaller lot, single-family subdivision. Tonight's discussion really is a continuation of the previous discussion on the September 6th, just looking for direction from the committee of the whole for the development. If single-family detached housing would be an option for the site, and then consensus for to move forward with the formal zoning petition. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll also invite the developer up here to provide some additional information as far as the changes that they made to the plan and how it might address the board's discussion from the previous meeting.
Hi, good evening. Again, my name is Nate Weinsma with William Ryan Homes. Thank you for an opportunity to come back and come back so quickly. And we hope that the new plan, and I think the report that staff put together is very thorough in its analysis of the plan now that we're proposing, the changes from the previous plan. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but a couple of the things that, you know, again, this was very preliminary. We wanted to get feedback from the board. We appreciate the feedback we got at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think we took that to heart and tried to make adjustments, which I think all in all makes for a better plan. Some of the specifics that I think we will get into as we move forward, I mentioned last time, we would be meeting as soon as possible with the existing homeowners from Westlake, get their feedback and input and make them aware of what our proposal is and what our plans are. Along those lines, and I think as we continue through the details of the process with this board is, you know, we have not, we've done basically a concept plan here. We have not done anything specific to address conditions like one of the issues that came up or points that was made by this board last time was Lot 10, which is the northernmost lot along Westlake Drive. Whether it's relation to the existing townhome building to the north or those lots along the east property line and their relation to the townhomes to the east. It's a pretty heavily wooded property line, but to the extent that there are gaps in that property line, or Lot 10 as it lies next to the existing townhomes, some of those conditions, as we get into the details of landscape plans and buffers and things like that, we will definitely take into consideration the existing conditions, the relation of the lots to the existing bike paths and all those things that kind of impact the improvements and the amenities that are already there. So I just want to, make that point that we intend to, really get into the details of it and work through some of those issues as we move forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have with regards to the changes that are made in the plan. But I think all in all, it makes for an average lot size greater than 9,600 feet. So we're at that point, we're getting close to a builder quarter acre lot. It's really not a cluster by any means, or it's really more of a traditional.
Thank you for making the revisions. Also, before we get started on any discussion, I want to thank you for jumping on the other issue with the enclave.
Yeah.
Trying to resolve some of those situations that
Yeah.
I've been informed that that's in
We
process.
still have some details to work out, but we are working with the homeowners there.
Okay, thank you.
When do you anticipate that getting resolved?
I would hope within the next month. We have a property manager who's been engaged by our company to basically clean up what was not properly accounted for in the setup of the HOA and the transfer of the HOA. He's engaged now working through that. A lot of it just has to do with the finances. We want to make sure we get that straightened out with them as far as what was collected by us, by our buyers, what has been paid for, what remains to be transferred funds from William Ryan Homes to the HOA, along with the legal transfer that has to happen. So the property manager is really going to dig into that and make that transfer happen, and I would hope it happens within the next 30 days.
If this process is launched into our process, that is congruent with that schedule, if you follow what I'm saying. I mean, it'll take them that long to get through our process for this other project.
Okay, good.
So if part of the concern is just wanting to make sure that that's held,
That is absolutely a
then-
concern that I have.
yeah, so that should be possible.
Okay, thank you.
Why should I be happy with a 50% lot coverage versus the 35%, which is, so we're going to be asking for a variance for that?
I think that's one of the details that we'll get into as we go through the process. So one of the things we're going to do is take all of the plans we're going to offer, and we will have our engineer do a lot coverage matrix. So essentially he'll test the footprint of every home on every lot. Given the size of the lots, I would doubt that we reach that coverage max, but we'll be able to tell you in detail, when we get a petition in front of you and have a public hearing, that what those coverages are, what they actually are. But I think that's a maximum if we see that kind of coverage in the end result.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm supportive of the proposal with the lower lots. I thought it was a positive to go even with the prior plan, given the fact that there hasn't been any development on this property in quite some time, and it's important given its entryway position. And I know this may not be the time to talk about this, but just as a matter of information for you, that several recent developers who have come to town with development opportunities on the residential side have included in their proposals dollars, if you will, towards our building fund as part of their package. So I think it's important to put that out. In my mind, I think that is something that, as we see developers come to town, needs to be on the table as they start to think about asking us for zoning or variances or any of those sorts of things. As everyone on the board knows, we have a fund started for infrastructure improvements to this building or some new building, and this is one of the ways that we complete that.
Anything else?
I would just say that I'm pleased with the changes that you made, and that in reality, you're right there. Average lot size is 9,600, that's almost at the 10,000. I would also say that as you go down, I think one of the things that us as a board has to consider is that some of the, businesses have to be nimble to what the needs of the purchaser is. And at this day and age, you're going to go down, if you're heading down to, whether you head down to Palatine or Arlington, you see all these homes that are tear downs and rebuilds. They're on very small lots, and there is a huge demand for that. A lot of people, whether it's us personally, there are a lot of people that really don't want all that maintenance. They don't want as much land anymore. So I don't think that something in this lot size is something that is not going to be in demand by consumers. But I like the fact that you listened to the feedback. You made some amendments to that, and I think how it's based down, it's right in the front. It's also going to spur some continued development in the back end for those townhomes that have had nothing either, that someone else, another developer may jump in, maybe even you guys, you never know, and just say, we want to finish this all off. So I look at this as a positive step towards seeing if we can get this to work.
Thank you.
I appreciate the price point that you laid for that. I would have seen some affordable housing added some percentage affordable housing goal of 10% in the village. So I'll be asking that as developers find a way. I understand this is a plan and we'll see it, but thank you.
So do I have a consensus to move this forward to the ZPA?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for your
much.
accommodations, appreciate it. We'll now open a public hearing to consider an ordinance granting a variation to allow a residential fence in an exterior side yard for the property located at 750 Millwood Avenue. Part of the rules of our public hearing, we will start with the staff presentation, reviewing what we have, and I will allow people to come and speak in opposition or in favor of this. They will be given 3 minutes to state their case. Then we will have an opportunity after the applicant makes their statements to have them kind of answer some of the questions that may have been, and move forward through that part. So when it comes time for your testimony, whoever is going to testify in that particular case, we will have you stand and we will swear you in because this is a hearing. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. The request this evening is for a fence variation to install a fence within a required exterior side yard for the property at 750 Millwood Street. Subject property is on the corner of Millwood Street and Cambridge Court. Proposed fence would be to install, or proposed location of the fence would be to install in the exterior side yard along Cambridge Court. The existing or required setback for a fence along this property line is 30 feet, basically the building setback line. Petitioner is proposing to install a fence halfway to the property line, so a 15-foot setback along the existing sidewalk that resides along the Cambridge Court frontage. This slide shows on the Plata survey the proposed location of the fence and then also the type of fence is proposed. A black vinyl coated chain link fence is proposed. Petitioner is looking to install a 4-foot tall fence in this location. You can see on the slide the 30-foot setback line would be where the fence would be allowed, permissible by right to go in. The proposed setback would increase the fenceable area in the rear yard for where usable space that can be utilized for the property. The existing conditions of the site are shown in this slide. As you can see, the upper left-hand picture is the view from looking at the front of the home along Millwood Avenue. The fence would be located in the rear of the structure, but the lower right-hand image here shows the view from Cambridge Court. The fence would be located behind the existing vegetation that's located along this property line. There's existing evergreen shrubs and trees that are in that area, so the fence would be screened by that existing vegetation for the majority of that property line.
Right.
There's
Is it going from the front yard to the back of the fence along that sidewalk?
Yes, if you're looking at the slide, the fence would be starting about this location and would go
Okay.
behind this landscaping towards the back. So the front of the house is over here. This is where you can see Millwood.
Okay,
So the fence would be, go back a slide. The darker red on this image would be where the fence would be installed. And then the landscaping is existing in this location.
okay, so connecting to the house.
Yeah, it would connect to the back corner of the house
Okay.
and on both ends of the property from that standpoint.
Thank you.
So in the subject case, staff reviewed the request and based off the buildable or fensible area of the property and the existing vegetation. Staff was recommending support of a variation to install a fence up to 5 feet in height with a setback of 15 feet, an exterior side yard for the property located at 750 Millwood Street. Petitioners here will be able to provide additional information for why the request is being sought for the variance, but we can answer any questions you may have as well regarding the proposal.
Any questions for Brian right now?
Yeah, can we either make it either a 5-foot or a 4-foot fence? The plan you gave said they're planning a 4-foot fence, and we got a variation in here, 5 feet.
Correct. The code basically allows for up to 5 feet fences. That's where my recommendation would be to allow up to a 5-foot tall fence. The petitioner's only seeking
Oh,
approval
okay.
for a
All right.
4-foot
I
fence.
get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, all right.
Any other questions for Brian? Mrs. Hagan, would you like to come up and talk a little bit about your process?
Good evening.
Before you get started, could you just raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth regarding this matter?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, this makes me really nervous.
Don't be nervous. We're all neighbors. Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
can you move her microphone down a little, please? Thanks.
I did include a letter
Mm-hmm.
with my packet explaining exactly why we need the fence. We have a little puppy, a cockapoo puppy recently. And we do try to walk her as much as we can on the leash. We don't want an invisible fence for the reason that she's small and she's fast and she could just go through and get shocked and she wouldn't care, and there's streets on both sides where she could get hit. There are also lots of dogs in the neighborhood that could come in, and we think there might be a coyote. So that's one reason. The other reason is that my husband and I are both in our mid-70s. My husband has been in very poor health the last 2 years. He had esophageal cancer, and so we're dealing with all of that. Sometimes he is well enough to go out and walk her, other times he isn't. And so I just need the fence so that we can let her out if we need to let her out, and she can run and play safely. I have one more reason, but I don't know if I should even tell you. I have a 91-year-old aunt whose puppy died when she was 89. She got a new puppy to train. She's on a rascal. And she said, "Do you think I should get a new puppy? I'm so lonely." And I said, "Oh, Margie, not if you have to go out in the winter with it," because she would put on her coat and hat and mittens and go out and take this puppy out. And she said, "Well, it can be pad trained, but when I die, will you take it?" So another reason we need the fence.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me? Someday we'll have 2 puppies.
Did you have any feedback from the neighbors that you noticed?
Yes, they all said, "Well, who cares if you have a fence?" So, no, I didn't have any negative and lots of positive, and so that's it.
Okay. Is there anybody here that would like to speak out in opposition of this, or this proposal? None? Any questions for the petitioner?
No, I just want to let you know, though, I went by the property, and I think the way the vegetation planted, it's really going to be, it's not going to be visible to anyone. And secondly, I know that sometimes people say, gosh, I prefer a cedar fence or something like that, but in this case, you're going to keep everything so that it's really aesthetically just blends right in with that type of fencing,
That
so
was my idea with the chain link,
Yeah.
because
I agree.
as I walked my puppy, I looked at all the fences in the neighborhood in that Greenfields area, and the wooden ones just didn't excite me because everything was so closed
Right.
off. And we enjoy sitting on the patio and looking out.
Right.
So we can do both things.
Exactly.
But yes, there are 5 huge white pine trees, and it would be on our side of the white pines. So, yeah, they don't really show up in the slide that well. But I think for the most part, it would not be
I
seen.
see it.
Any other questions? Would anybody have any objection to putting this on the consent agenda?
Nope.
Agenda the next month.
Thank
What that means is it'll be on for omnibus approval at the next meeting. You're more than welcome to attend, but the indication from the committee is that it'll pass, so that's up to you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Hagan. Our next public hearing is to consider an ordinance granting a conditional use for a monument sign in an R3 zoning district for the property located at 225 North First Street.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, Brian.
The proposal this evening is for again, a conditional use for a monument sign in the R3 district. The proposal is for the Garden Place apartment project to install a monument sign that would identify that specific development. The proposal is to install a monument sign near the southern entrance of the property. Property is zoned R3 multifamily residential, which by village code, monument signs within residential districts are not permitted by right, but they do require conditional use approval. The proposed sign would comply with all the standards as far as design and construction for size and setback, which I can give additional information here, but does require the process to get approval before permits can be issued for the sign. As mentioned, the sign will be double-sided. We'll have lettering on each side of the face. Will be a precast concrete with black sandblasted inset letters. The brick and masonry of the sign will match the primary buildings for the development, so it'll blend architecturally with the rest of the development. The sign area per sign face would be 24 square feet is the maximum by code. And then the height would comply with the maximum height permitted is 6 feet. It'll just be over 5 feet as proposed. The setback, for reference, the application indicated that it would be set back about a foot from the property line, but actually there's an easement that runs along First Street frontage. The property line is in the location of the sidewalk. As you can see on this slide here, and there'll be a 15-foot easement, and the sign will be set back an additional 6 inches from that point. So the sign will comply with the requirement of a 10-foot setback. It'll be set back about 15.5 feet from the property line along First Street. So as proposed, the sign will comply with all the bulk standards for sign placement and requirements for area and height. Section 1412.030 of the sign ordinances establishes certain standards for consideration of conditional uses, which are summarized in the slide. In general, the conditional use will not be detrimental or endanger the public health. Use will not substantially diminish or impair the value of properties within the neighborhood, not impede an orderly development, and will comply with all of the requirements of the sign ordinance. Based off the review of the information provided, staff believes that the conditional use standards are met in this case and would recommend that the committee of the whole recommend approval of the following motion. Approval of conditional use for a monument sign for the Garden Place Apartments, the Petcore Investments LLC, for the property located at 225 North First Street, subject to the 2 conditions listed. That each sign face will be limited to a maximum of 24 square feet per code. And then signs shall be set back at least 10 feet from the right-of-way and not exceeding over a height of 6 feet. Proposal, again, does comply with those requirements, but those are what the sign code requires. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The petitioner is also here to provide information on their request.
Any questions for Brian regarding this request?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And I know I made this once before. I don't have any issues with the sign. I would like to see a little bit more creative name for the community. I think apartments bugs me. I mean, I'd rather just call it Garden Place. I don't particularly like Garden Place Apartments. And I know I've said that once before to, kind of come up with a name that's a little bit more creative and a little bit more upscale sounding. Garden Place Apartments sounds like an apartment complex to me. And that's not what this is. This is a very nice, in fact, it'd be the nicest, multifamily property we have in town. So to me, I'd prefer to see a little bit more place apartments.
Anybody have any concerns with that?
I mean,
Well-
I'm just curious, what is the one in Crystal Lake? What is that called? I don't. There's Parkway Apartments, it just says Congress.
Why don't we have someone
Yeah.
come to the mic?
Is the petitioner here?
Oh, Rachel,
Mike.
hurry up.
Yes. The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Sign says Congress Parkway Apartment Homes.
Okay.
So,
I've been by it many times, I just didn't
you
realize
know,
what it said.
and I'd have to go back and take
Yeah.
a picture of it.
We're looking it up right now.
It's been
Well,
so many
the
years.
reason I asked some of these, and people don't even know it's an apartment development, or they think something else. So I understand what trustee Dudek is getting at, in the sense of, I mean, especially with the way that it's looking with apartment complex. So,
Well, just as a matter of just history, when they first proposed this, remember, this is the second name.
Yeah, I didn't like it then either.
Yeah, that's why it was changed. There was a majority of the board that asked for it to be changed as well. Is that something you'd be willing to look at?
Well, we can
Before
certainly,
we comments of the rest of the board, so that we're all on the same page, because ultimately he wants his sign approved, and now we've got an amendment on the naming, and I think we should sort that out first as a board before we ask them to do it, because I haven't heard from the rest of the board.
Any
Trustee
comments, Jeff?
Covelli and
About
Kraus.
the name or about the sign?
the sign.
Well,
The
I'd
sign,
start,
I'm fine with the sign. I don't care about the name,
I mean, we can certainly, I think, add besides apartments, because it is an apartment community, and it's important to identify that as such. As people drive by, they know it's not an owner-occupied scenario. But we certainly can probably add apartment homes to it.
Thoughts on that, trustee Chapman?
I'm fine with that. I like that idea. It definitely classes it up.
Trustee Covelli?
I don't really care what it's called.
what is it then? And then we can ask him if he'll do it.
Well, I think, no, I have two people here that don't particularly care. You kind of like just adding the homes to it, or do you want to, trustee Chapman, do you want to see it a different name?
No?
Just adding homes?
Yeah.
That'd be fine with you?
I'm fine. I was just, again, if it didn't say apartments in the Crystal Lake, I don't think you need to say it, but if you are saying it to let them know that it's not an owner-occupied situation, then so be it. I mean,
Well, I think, what's, it's,
Is it?
Trustee Dudek, would you be fine adding just homes to it, or what exactly are you looking for, and then maybe we can go from that?
I think I've said it twice. I'm looking for something that, you look at your other developments, I don't think they're I was just trying to look to your website, but probably can't get service here. Something that sounds a little bit more, I mean, you've got a $18-19 million project. The first building built in town since I've been on the board for over 10 years, and we're calling it an apartment complex. I recognize that it is apartments, but we should do better than that. And so, whether 5 of my colleagues want to leave the name alone or not, I want to go on record again that why can't we have a creative, more impressive sounding project, period, end of sentence.
All I'm saying is it Garden Place, period? Is that what's on the table, or is it Garden Place Homes? And then
Or
we try
Garden
to
Place
get on the same
Complex.
page before we ask them
I
for
don't know,
comment.
Garden Place Complex.
I mean, but like you said, you go through other places, and I know you walk into in my development, it doesn't say Lions Ridge Single Family Homes.
Right,
It says Lions
exactly.
Ridge.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Enclave says the Enclave. I'm sure that,
the Enclave does
you
say
go
the
into
Enclave.
Greenfields, it says Greenfields.
Fox Trail says Fox Trails. I mean,
So is this something that as a developer, that is it a requirement? I don't know the answer to that. Is it a requirement to have the
No,
word apartments in it?
We, throughout our 18,000 apartments out there, communities, we do, I mean, almost every sign has apartments and/or apartments homes.
Well, we've got the first Burger King drive-through, let's have
Sure.
the first Garden Place.
Could we, is everybody in agreement? We'll just call it Garden Place?
I'm fine.
Will that work for you, Trustee Judick, since you brought this up? Or perhaps the petitioner might have something that you have in
I
mind?
just don't like the word apartments. That was my.
I understand that.
Because there'll be a manager's office on site, so people can drive there and figure it out, perhaps.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at your website now. You have Valley View. Doesn't say Valley View apartment homes. It's the first one that popped up. Trust me, people are going to know those are apartments. You're not going to need a sign that says apartments.
I can see that the sign's not been, sandblasted yet or cut, so, we can probably accommodate your wishes and just say Garden Place. I need to check with, certainly our management group who will be marketing with that.
Do you want to mention that? No. Okay. Okay, if you're willing to do it, that's fine.
He's saying that he's going to take Garden Place back to the table, and we're going to come back in 2 weeks with consideration, and you will by that point have your corporate comment on that. But the board's asking for Garden Place, if that's possible.
I'll say if we can move this along, we can do that.
All right, do I have a consensus to move this forward with just Garden Place?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go with Garden Place. Does anybody have a problem with putting this on the consent agenda? Okay, all right, will be items for separate action then.
So that'll be October 4th on items for separate action. We'll have a brief report and button this up.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Now moving to department head reports. Chief, do you have anything for us? No. Jacob? No, sir. Brian? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.